meeting to order at 9:30 a.m. Due to a few technical difficulties, we are now getting started. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here. We are here to proceed our third budget work session. Oftentimes for the public, this third session is usually not needed, but this is obviously a tough budget year. But I feel that we're getting closer, and we to our colleagues today, we need to pretty much get as close to consensus as possible. And we'll be, after this meeting, the next time we address the budget is voting on it. So I'd like to start us out with, obviously, to the public, we have been talking a lot. We have been deliberating a lot amongst one another. We have heard all of the calls and emails, read all the emails and all of the notes, all of the correspondence from various groups. Just on a high level, this is a very tough budget, mainly due to circumstances that were beyond our control. But we are trying to make the best of this bad hand as possible. This is not a scenario where we're trying to pit organizations against one another. Just about everyone is taking a slight cut to things. We are trying to make sure that we make, whole or make good on every organization that we partner with, and hopefully we can get there. So what I'll do is I'll pass it over to Director Reardon to formally bring us into the work session, and then I'm going to pass it off to sort of set the stage and to my colleagues. Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Christina Reardon, Budget and Management Services Director. This is the third of our budget work sessions, and today we do not have a formal agenda. This is really a working session at this point to kind of finalize things before we go forward with the budget adoption. So, we did provide a follow-up memo to council with some information that you all had, some questions that had come up in the last two work sessions. So that information has been provided to all council members. We do have staff in the room if there are more questions, but really we are here to be a resource today as you kind of work towards that final reconciliation to get to a balanced budget.
Thank you.
I'll just add, Mayor, if I can, I want to thank the council and layer on to Director Reardon's comments that this has been a long and difficult budget season due to the constraints that have been addressed. I think staff and council all heard, a lot of poignant testimony Monday night about how this budget impacts people, and we certainly took that to heart. We've also heard from various different council members different ideas and proposals about how you'd like to bring it forward. So in addition to the staff, we do have the ability to react kind of in real time today to different ideas and suggestions, but as you indicated, it's really important that this session bring us to closure to the greatest extent possible. Obviously, if there are I's to dot and T's to cross, we can still do that between now and budget adoption, but as far as major decisions, we're really looking to get those today. So appreciate that, and we stand ready to answer any questions, facilitate any conversation that's helpful to the council. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Colleagues, I first want to say thank you to each of you. I know this has not been easy. And what I can appreciate most is how passionate we all are about these various issues. And first and foremost, just being the stewards of overseeing the city and trusting our staff, the professionals, to really carry out what our desires are on behalf of the community at large. Thank you, staff, for being here today and ready to answer questions for us. We probably will have a lot. But what I'd like to do now, in good faith, there was a lot of deliberation amongst us, and I have spoken to many of you. I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Javier for just really putting the pedal to the metal and just grinding it out with the conversations amongst everyone to get us to a point. So what I'd like to do is pass it over to Mayor Pro Tem to give a landscape. This is a synopsis of all of the commentary amongst us. So you may not have talked to one another every day, but one of us have talked to each of you colleagues. And we have, Shane and I have sat down and we've really hashed out where we are so far. Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Williams. First of all, I just want to say that this is where I had either the mayor or I had conversations with each of you, sometimes multiple times. We sat down a few times to talk through what we've both been hearing and to see where there was consensus. That does not mean that we are 100% aligned, but there was at least some interest in the following kind of framework that I'm going to lay out. And then we're going to just, open it up for any questions or more discussion. But we thought it would be helpful for folks before we kind of get more into the weeds to hear what we at least thought we heard from you all. The items that we heard consistently from council members that there was interest in increasing funding for. I'm sorry, I'm going to try and find my list. Was trying to not zero out the funding for the nonprofits, which right now is all nonprofits are zeroed out. There was interest in funding at least 50% across the board, and then several of you mentioned trying to find full funding for the West End Community Center. The second item that there was a lot of consensus around was increasing money for immigrant legal defense. I think the amount that folks felt comfortable was to fund it up to $750,000. The parking plus 500,000. The parking pilot, crossing guards, and figuring out if we could close the hole on basic income, because we heard from Director Smith last week that there was funding, I think, through March, maybe it was February, and that amount is around $300,000. It's slightly less. It's like $299,000 something. Those are the items that we heard a lot of consensus around. The places that there was also consensus around where we could potentially find funding, because staff had also said to us, hey, if you can tell us where you might want to pull funding from, that would also be helpful. And it is a mixture with, and I'm going to say this, there are some council members who do not want to touch fund balance at all. There are a few council members, probably two, who are willing to use fund balance to cover the entire amount. And there's a couple of us, myself included, who are comfortable with about 500,000. So it's not consensus, like everyone loves the fund balance. Is that you or me? Okay, sorry. I keep thinking it's on my phone and I turned it off. And so that was one. The other one was the ARPA interest dollars, which currently right now is in the funding the homeless strategic framework. We know that that is towards staffing, but we are also aware that it's unrestricted dollars, and so there's been some conversation around, do we dial back the plan? Not because we don't think it's fantastic, but because we are in pretty tight circumstances. And then finally, the neighborhood revitalization grants that OEWD runs that are about $300,000. There have been some questions around that and making sure that there weren't any applicants that are already in the pipeline that would maybe be affected negatively. Those are the places that we also heard pretty broad consensus around, okay, we're at least interested in looking in this. That's what I've got. That's based on conversations that I've had with each of you or the mayor's had with you. And I'm going to pause just to make sure that folks feel comfortable with what they heard and also keep this going. I don't know, Director Reardon, if that was helpful.
Yes, that is very helpful, because as you know, if there are any increases, we do need to kind of have either a reduction or revenue source to be able to fund those. So.
And then just the other, really quickly, the place that folks felt comfortable was the kind of commitment to not, raising taxes. Folks felt like that staff had done a lot of work on that one, and that the other part was around worker pay, to keep it at 2%. Even though we don't like it, we also understood that once you started to get into it, it was just going to quickly snowball into adding, having to find a lot of revenue to cover some of the things. That's what I've got this morning. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. At this time, that's just a starting place for us. It's not a final synopsis. It's just to get us going. And I will just open the floor for commentary. Councilmember Baker.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the tee up there. As far as reacting to some of these ideas, I'd be open to the conversation around the fund balance to the extent that staff feel comfortable dipping into that. I'd be open to that. I am not in favor of shifting money away from the homelessness strategy. There's one other thing I want to present here as an idea. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Most of the counties and municipalities around us are raising taxes pretty substantially to minimize their cuts, particularly to worker pay. I don't think there's an appetite. I mean, at this point with Durham County raising taxes to the extent that they are, I don't think it's feasible for us to be able to meet the 5% increase. In thinking about this constitutional amendment on property tax and all of the unknowns that we have moving forward, I would be open to a quarter penny tax increase to pay for worker bonuses this year, especially given that we're balancing the budget largely from worker pay. That doesn't get us anywhere close to what they otherwise would be receiving, but that I just wanted to present that as an idea as well. It'd be about $500. I think with a little left over.
Councilmember Cook. Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Director Reardon, I was wondering, I feel like a big part of this conversation is around fund balance, and several of us have conflicting memories of what the fund balance is. So in our slide, we had 5 million. There was conversation about maybe 2 million having been taken out of that. Are we over our 16.7% at all, or are we right at it?
So this is the slide that I showed at the meeting. And
Excuse me, Councilmember Cook, Director Reardon, I just wanted to mention I got a text from someone who said they weren't getting sound for the meeting. And that may just be that individual's challenge, but I wanted to raise it just in case it's a broader issue.
No sound. We're recording and it's going to be posted later.
Okay, got it. So right now, people are able to see it, but they aren't able to hear sound.
So-
We're not there yet. We are recording for later.
We
Okay.
are recording for later. What they're seeing, because we're trying to reboot the system in the background to get it going. So what they're seeing is the static image of live stream will start. We have posted messages on Facebook and YouTube to say we're having issues, we're recording, we'll post it later.
Thank you for restating that. I
Sorry.
appreciate it.
as I was saying, this is the slide that you saw at your, the first work session. And so this is, and we're talking about general fund balance, which is what we normally talk about when we talk about fund balance. So this would be that we are above this, we are anticipated at the end of this year to be above the 16.7. The manager's budget does have one-time items, which is what we use fund balance for. That would be 2.2 million. So if we use the 2.2 million, we're at 7.2 million, we would have 5 million left above the 16.7.
Can I add some additional context to that? And maybe is Director Flora in the room?
He is not, but he is available. He is, we can,
So historically, can you talk a little bit about historically, that 16.7 is our policy, which is council policy. It is above the state mandated minimum, which is 12. But historically, the city has, at budget time, been at 18 to 20%. So our practice has been 18 to 20%, which primarily leaves flexibility during the year for mid-year appropriations, if an emergency arises, if we have a major shortfall in the budget. And that is below Director Flora's preferred level of about 20%. So the context I want to provide, so you absolutely can spend down to the floor. It is not something that councils have chosen to do, and it basically eliminates any flexibility you would have during the year to make any sort of mid-year appropriations or adjustments. It also limits our flexibility to respond to any unforeseen changes, like that fund balance was very helpful when we had to pay refunds out of this year's budget. So I'm not telling you not to do it. I wanted you to have that context as you consider how much of that fund balance to spend. This is a regular conversation, and so I wanted to make sure that was added as well. Christina, did I get most of that right?
You did,
Okay.
and I think we also provided the fund balance policy in your follow-up documents so that council has that. This was a choice made by a previous council, and it is codified in policy, but you have flexibility up to the 16.7.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think that what I'm kind of thinking is that I'm not interested in going below the 16.7. I do think that I appreciate that Durham has increased that minimum. And I'm also not like advocating for utilizing every single dollar that's in that surplus, but it does feel like this is a pretty extraordinary year. And we do have a little bit of surplus. I hear you saying that folks are not like super comfortable with it. But again, I feel like dipping into that in this sort of extraordinary year, not making it a policy to do that regularly, still having some surplus over our 16.7% is feeling good to me, as opposed to taking from other programming and disrupting programming that's already in the budget. So that is where I'm leaning, and I think I appreciate Councilmember Kopak has done a bit of spreadsheeting to help us do some math. And I think that we could very easily take some portion of that surplus without going all the way down to the 16.7%. So that's going to be where I'm going to recommend.
And Richard?
Thank you. What is the total? I need a total for the amounts that so it's 750, it's 300 for basic income, right?
We do have a spreadsheet
Yes.
that we could pull up live.
Yeah, I
if you
just need
want
the
to.
total because I feel like that helps me, because if it's $2 million and we're talking about pulling it all out of fund balance, and we're already using 2.2 and there's only 5, that leaves us with very little over surplus. And I will say that I am deeply uncomfortable. I've never seen our fund balance go this low. 20 to 25% is where we've been. We have needed it before. Between COVID and there have been decisions made at other times where we wanted to have the money ready for a one-time expenditure in the middle of the year. I feel like that's what we used for bonuses a few years ago. Okay, so we used fund balance for bonuses a few years ago, correct?
We have used fund balance
Yeah.
for bonuses.
Yeah, what was it, like in 23 maybe, or 22?
2021, I just got no council.
Okay.
I think that
2022.
I'm going to, HR is in the room and can confirm the date, the exact date, but yes, traditionally we've used fund balance for bonuses, since bonuses are one-time money.
Yeah.
And so that is the rationale behind, it's not a continuing expense.
Yeah, it's not continuing. I'm just naming those things as what we have been able to do in previous years when we haven't let our stores get so low, and that means that from July 1, that's going to kind of not be an option on the table for us. I'm comfortable with taking some money, but I don't think we should be taking all of the money that we are asking for. And let's be clear, colleagues, we're playing on the margins here. We should be, like the budget that staff has brought us and the work that we've done is very, very good. We're talking about maybe $2 million that we're trying to find funding for. So it's not, $10 million. But I just wanted to share that kind of historic piece of things that we've had to use fund balance for before, and why I think staff, rightfully so, is very, it is a little concerning that we are where we are.
Councilman Roy.
So on this issue of fund balance, I understand completely that we want to use this for, if we use it for one-time expenses, not recurring expenses, clearly, right? I know we've talked a lot in this budget season about this being in some ways like a reset, right? Especially with the givebacks on the property tax side. And so as we're thinking about that sort of like the reset, I guess my first question is, if you go back to there's a slide about the 2.2 million that we're already using in fund balance, and you said that's for one-time expenses. And so as we're thinking about a lot of one-time expenses here, would you clarify the 2.2 million we're planning to use of fund balance already? That would take us from 7 to around 5. What is that 2.2 being used for?
The majority is for things like vehicles and one-time cost associated with some of the, things that departments asked for. They're things that would be one-time expenditures, and I can get the exact list, have a staff member look up what some of those are, but a lot of
That'd be
them are.
helpful to get that list, yeah. Because as we're talking about one-time expenses, so what are the options for one-time expenses that we're, and I realize we want to be careful with the fund balance getting as low as it is, but I want to be clear about if we're making choices on fund balance, what's the full set of choices, including the 2.2, as well as other stuff we might consider. Thank you.
Yeah, I know a majority of that was for some vehicles for our community safety department and some other things like that, so.
So sticking with the fund balance conversation, we've used the word unprecedented to describe this budget year. And so with that in mind, I'm open to using some of the fund balance for one-time expenses. I also, in hearing staff input and my colleagues who've been at this a lot longer, understand the caution and the value of retaining that to give us flexibility. I'm just curious to hear perhaps from the city manager or others about other times in the past. We've talked about worker bonuses, but other times in the past where we've used that fund balance, and any times when we have taken more extraordinary measures in terms of spending that down closer to our minimum, which is above the state minimum. Other examples of that?
I'm going to defer to our budget director, maybe DCM Winbush, only because given my short tenure in this chair, they're better informed on our historic use of fund balance than I am.
So in my tenure, we have not gotten close to the 16.7, but I don't know if DCM Winbush has any other comments about that. But we have traditionally stayed well above that. But, but I have been here during good times as well, too. So
One example I heard was about use of the fund balance for Carolina Theater, but I'm not sure how much we used and how close we got to the 16.7 we got with that.
Yeah, traditionally we've been able to we do always do some, there is usually a portion of our budget that we use for one-time expenses. And so last year, our one-time was closer to 6 million. So when we do this budget this year, we were we knew fund balance would be tight, and so we really limited the amount of one-time items that we put in the budget this year. So if we were doing something that would be kind of a capital thing that would just be a one-time, the example would be like a HVAC or something that's one time, we would use traditionally fund balance for that. Did I answer your question? I'm not sure if I...
So there's no kind of historical record of where we've drawn that down closer to our minimum, Carolina Theater or others in the tenure that staff has been here?
We do have, yes. Yes, we have the numbers for the 10 years of what we've done with fund balance.
Well, I guess I don't mean
what
there's
you're
not a
asking?
historical record, but there hasn't been a time when we've done what some folks here are suggesting doing.
Yeah, it's been more than 10 years since we've been close to 16.7, but DCM Winbush can probably speak to some of that.
Good morning, everyone. Bertha Winbush, Deputy City Manager. We have in 2007-8, we drew down a lot of fund balance. We have always used fund balance to close our budget gap, but we've not always used it. We've always budgeted it, but our revenues come over sometimes. They come over, our sales tax come under or over, so it's not always an apples to apples in terms of what we budget and what we use. The best place to look at that is our audits, which are on the finance department's website, and you can look at the audit, and that's where the actual fund balance use is captured in the annual audit. So the historical data is there. The best place is to audit, not necessarily the budget, because that is just what we budget, not what we actually spend.
So it's been a long time since we got close to that. And when we did that, it was also mid-year versus making the decision at this stage, which sort of limits our flexibility to be responsive, is what I heard the city manager saying.
Yes,
So,
we've
okay.
we've made decisions and adjusted the use of fund balance mid-year when sometimes we say, let's wait until we get our first sales tax, payments in mid-year. We've done bonuses in January. We've used fund balance and adjusted our budget during the year when we're not certain about whether we will have money available, particularly with bonuses. We've said, I think the mayor spoke about that when we said, let's see where we are mid-year, and then we can be able to give bonuses if we are confident in our revenue collections.
Thank you.
Oh, wait.
Fund balance? I can pause a minute.
I just wanted to ask this young woman a question, follow up real quick. It's not anything bad. No, but you made a good point, and I think I've expressed this to my colleagues as well, is thinking about like what was happening in 2007, 2008, and we were in a recession. And so I just wanted to highlight, like thinking about like just some of the times where that was a unique moment because of the economic factors that were happening around us, and thinking about that in this moment right now where we're at, where we're kind of in economic uncertainty as well. So just wanted to put that in the air while you were on topic with that.
Yeah, and I do want to say that we have provided that historical fund balance number to council in the past based on the ACFR, which is where we would receive that, and so we can provide what we provided
I
last year.
appreciate that. I mean, obviously, we're looking for revenue. We have discomfort about some of the choices we have before us, and so what you're sharing is very helpful, so we appreciate it. In terms of looking for revenue, I appreciate Councilmember Baker's recommendation. I know that the question of worker pay is something that we've all discussed extensively together, and something is a very difficult choice in reality that we're all facing, and not one that I know that I and other colleagues can speak for myself, but I don't believe anyone has taken lightly at all. Just to dimensionalize some of this, so like a 0.25 penny increase, that's what, like 1.75 million? That translates into, you said $500 per
Yeah,
person? Is that how to do that math?
Yeah, we were just calling up we've developed a little spreadsheet to do the penny right in live. So yeah, you were correct in your math, so.
All right. And, I had requested some additional research, which I saw in the memo, so thank you for putting that together, about recent decisions of the council around taxes. And just to, obviously I have my own personal experience, but just trying to think about writ large what residents have experienced. And what I saw in the memo had to do with the decisions around the tax rate. What I'm curious about is, looking at the actual impact from a pocketbook standpoint on a resident, which is, going to be some combination of the valuation and the tax rate. And so I understand that we made decisions, where we've made decisions at times to adjust and lower the tax rate. But in terms of what someone's sort of, impact is on what they're paying in their annual property taxes, do we have that for like for median or other ways that we tend to calculate that to understand what the impact has been for a household for decisions in recent years by the council?
Yes, we do have the median home value, and so because obviously the impact on an individual will be based on the value of their home, and since it's not a reval year, people's values generally do not change, but so it's the tax rate that would impact, but we can get you that, I can have staff, I think it's $415,000 is the median home value according to the Durham County Tax Office, and so, yeah, we can bring that up as what the actual math would be if we were to change it. Right now, there is no, obviously, since we are proposing no change, it would be no change. But if we made a change, we could tell you what the actual value is for a homeowner.
And I think how I would ask is, it could be, last year or even just the last 3 years, what that change has been for, the median homeowner, how much more they've paid in taxes based on both the change in valuation and decisions around the tax rate. So, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Director Reardon, and thank you all for these thoughtful conversations. As to where I'm at right now, I do not support going into the fund balance. Particularly for me, I think about just a little bit of foreshadowing in that we are in uncertain economic times. Just think about what's going on in our federal government, but just overall in the atmosphere, and I don't feel comfortable at this point exploring that option. I haven't heard a case that's compelled me for that. I think that what I want to uplift is what we've heard is that it's going to be a tough, you got to make tough decisions. But also think about how that's going to impact our ability to do the work in the future and respond and be flexible to whatever arises with, we got some crazy person for another 2 years and we're in the middle of midterm. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. Also just thinking about like the 11th hour, the tax conversation is a little interesting. I would have preferred to hear that before today. Just thinking about that for ourselves. And also, I'm not opposed to reallocating some of the money for like the 1.4 million for the homeless plan. I'm not opposed to reallocating some of those dollars because I do feel like community safety has been supported in various areas throughout our budget. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And as I told my colleagues, I do support fully funding the Lion Park as well as some other issues, but I think we can do a little bit more to be nimble right now without going into the fund balance. Because again, I have not heard a compelling case of like, because I'm thinking about like we've set a standard about how we're not trying to pit community groups against each other. And so what's the criteria and justification for who gets what? That's where we're getting down to at this point. So maybe I'll hear more about that, but right now I still sit in a no.
I won't wait until the last person has spoken to speak. I'm going to interject some as well, but go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone for what they're sharing. At some point, and this is just where I'm at, it would be helpful for folks to get to, comfortable with, can you live with it? You may not like it. I don't love the idea of going into fund balance, which is where, for me, I'm like, okay, I could do $500,000. I don't think that is, jeopardizing. I think it's kind of a blend. I don't think pulling $500,000 or a little bit more from the homeless strategic plan is going to jeopardize that plan, and so that's been kind of my approach. I know everyone is going to approach it differently, but at some point we are going to have to get to consensus on council, even if we don't love the solution, because right now we have Councilmember Cook saying essentially she's comfortable with it all coming from fund balance, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so maybe a blend as well. I think, so I'm just putting that out for colleagues so that we can think about, and it may be that we don't get there today, but we're going to have to get there by the 15th. We have to be able to give staff clear direction on where we think they can go to get these dollars. And I think it's 1.875 is the total, well, 1.875 and $600, I guess, is where we are based on what I'm seeing on the items that the list of items that there at least was consensus to fund extra. Councilmember Baker, I appreciate your suggestion for worker bonuses, but I think that at least for me at this stage, it's kind of going to be too hard to figure that piece out.
Just have a couple questions. How many other municipalities have set an additional minimum on their fund balance? Is this something that's pretty ubiquitous across the state, or is it rare?
I'm going to ask our finance director, who might have more information about that.
Good morning, Tim Floor, Finance Director. So what I would say is everyone sets some kind of standard for their minimum fund balance. But also, I don't know if they discussed that before, LGC has a requirement. It's not that it's a statutory requirement, but it is you get on their bad list if you drop below, like, I think 8%, which is about 1 month of operating. Ours is that 16.7, which is 2 months of operating. But depends upon where you are at in the state. Like on the coastal side, on the coast, they usually have a higher fund balance because they deal with more hurricanes. And so in the mountains, before there was a hurricane hit there, they had a lower level of fund balance. So it really does sort of fluctuate depending upon where you are in the state, and again, what kind of ratings you're also going after, because a lot of what we have is really to secure those AAA credit ratings. These are the kind of levels that we are looking for.
Tim, are you aware of what the largest municipalities, Raleigh, Charlotte, Greensboro, Winston, do you have if you don't have to guess?
I don't, but I know we have that discussion quite often, and I think we're in the ballpark of what the others have as their official. We can get that information, but it is a conversation we perpetually have among the Big Ten, is where our fund balances sit at, and I think we're all right about the same level.
Okay, and then I guess my next question is like, are the other municipalities hovering around that limit that they're setting, or are they well over? Like, do we
I don't know. I would have to go and do some research
Okay.
on that.
Yeah, I'm interested. It's an interesting conversation. I understand the reasoning for having a surplus even in addition, but I do feel like we've sort of built our safety in by having our Durham policy be higher, to be where we want it to be, to make sure that we meet our accreditation requirements. I see that you're melting.
Well, no, I will just say, and I've had the conversations with the city manager as well, that, there is our policy, which is a 16.7%. There is also then my comfort level.
Yes.
And my comfort level is well above the 16.7%. And so it is more around the 20% where I'm getting comfortable.
I hear you, but we're already below that in this
Right.
budget. And,
Right. Yes.
And then I guess, then we're having these conversations about like how much to withdraw, which is kind of a weird thing to talk about, because it's like, you're just, like Mayor Pro Tem saying, maybe 500,000 or a little bit more, and I'm like, okay, the 1.3 that we need doesn't feel like that much more in the scheme of the numbers that we're talking about for a budget, and so like, it just kind of feels like a hard conversation to be like, oh, I feel comfortable with 750,000, like, why? Why do I feel comfortable with that? I don't know. Like, what is the percentage, where are we at now with our ish 5 million over surplus? What percentage are we at?
That was around 18%.
18%.
I think, yeah.
And if we were to take $1 million out of that, do we know? Like, can you give me like, what's roughly a percentage point?
We can do the math. I don't want to do math like up in front of folks.
Totally, that's fine. That's fine.
But it was, I think on the slide it said it was like the 7.2 is 2.3.
Right.
So above target.
And so
Yeah.
And so we took out 2 million of that and we lost a percentage point. Yeah, if you could tell us what a percentage point would be, that might be helpful, and then in us like
on my staff to do that
having a framework. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to share, I was on the council that made the policy of 16.7%. It was under former finance director Boyd, who then got poached. I feel like Mecklenburg or Charlotte. Anyway, and so it was very much kind of scanning not just North Carolina, but nationally, what communities were doing to set themselves up to have solid financial policies, not just for credit rating, but for these, what are the policies that you really want to use? I would like to see that list of the 2.2, because that could, I'm going to say it, maybe that's not a popular thing. There could be some things there that are one-time costs that we decide to delay for a year. And so I think that that is another place that we could look. I understand that that creates a domino effect for a department, but we're all taking hits here. And so if that means that somebody doesn't get 3 cars, honestly, that's not the end of the world for that department. So I just want to name that for colleagues. I'm not saying that that's what we do. I'm just saying I would like to see the list, because there might be some decision-making that we could do in that 2.2 million as well.
So I feel as though we've made fund balance the turf in which we're having this conversation, and I think that we need to make a decision whether whether the fund balance is going to be touched or not. But there are other areas I think we could have this conversation as well. I look at it this way. I look at fund balance as insurance. We have no idea what's going to happen, and we are a real city. We are a growing city, and we do get to the point. We have no idea what's going to happen in the fall, especially with an election. We don't know how crazy things are gonna get. We just don't know what we're gonna need additional funding for. And the larger the city, the more expensive things are. So I get a little worried and, you know, when we start getting into these dangerous areas. The credit bond rating is very important. AAA credit bond rating is really important to me, considering when we do go out and we're still talking about further bonds, that we get the best bang for our buck. I know that's like down the road, but it does matter. And, you know, our bond rating is based on our financial discipline. And that, you know, I mean, you don't want to drive your car extremely fast on dangerous terrain without insurance. And that's how I feel. And I feel like with the national landscape as well as local and statewide, there are more potholes in the road and we're driving faster. And the more we talk about taking away from fund balance, the weaker our insurance plan is. So that's how I approach it. I think that, you know, it is worth looking at. It is worth looking at what the additional funds in the fund balance are used for. I mean, just out of curiosity. But I also want to reduce this to a binary in my school of thought here. We have a lot of external organizations that we're supporting, and then we have all the operations that are inside the city, which puts us on the margins. It's really not a lot of money. So I'm looking forward to the conversation evolving into some of those specifics on how we get to that point, how we support organizations that are doing work for the city, that are engaging community members, and you know, just carrying out things. I mean, the city does brick and mortar, you know, but we use this margin to add that additional service of care to many populations in our community. So it's all important, and that's why I wanted to say earlier, we're not putting organizations against each other. But as I often say, you know, local government is like a jigsaw puzzle. We're moving things around and reallocating, and sometimes you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So we can keep talking about fund balance if we'd like, but I'd like to get into potentially looking at some other realignments. Mr. Kopak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I agree, like, this is not a binary. Ultimately, we make choices, and those choices do have consequences, but it is about a puzzle, and so I think it's good to touch base on both the revenue and expense side of things. You know, what I am hearing is that, I mean, ultimately, I'd love in our additional, 2 weeks to come, if we can find a way that we get to consensus or all colleagues being, at least being able to live with what we're putting forward, and everyone will make that choice. I'm hearing, a number of my colleagues who are willing to explore at least pulling something from fund balance. And I'm in that camp, but I'm also hearing really good arguments from colleagues about not touching it at all, which means that, if we touch it, if we dip more into fund balance, do it with caution and care and limits, would probably be where I'm, hearing just in this conversation and prior conversations, but everyone will make that determination for themselves. But that's kind of where, what I'm hearing. It's like, if we do it with caution and care. I like Mayor Pro Tem's suggestion of just looking at what else we're taking one-time funds for. And I do look forward to talking more about some of the programs we want to support as well and what that looks like. I do, have concern about, the late-breaking nature of the recommendation to cut some of the community support that we've been providing. That's just difficult for organizations from a budgeting standpoint to find that out late. I understand why that recommendation was made, but I think that's difficult from a partnership standpoint. I would like to have a conversation, next year about, criteria and a process for how we decide which partners to support what we're trying to accomplish. But right now, we're just thinking about the decision for this budget and the impact that has on organizations. And so I agree with trying to get, our partners at least 50% of the support that they've gotten. And if we're able to stretch that, particularly around Lion Park, I would like to see that. But at least providing some material support to all those partners, given the late-breaking nature of the decision at this time. But yeah, it is a jigsaw puzzle. So those are comments I have right now on both fund balance and on partner support.
Councilmember Burris.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think we're all in the same place. I think this is the toughest budget I've had to deal with. I've only been on council 3 years. I'm not sure we're at unprecedented times, but it's certainly a challenging budget. I think it's our job and our burden in some ways is to make the hard decisions. That's kind of what we're elected to do. I want to go back to Mayor Pro Tem's comment a few minutes ago, like, are we comfortable with this? And I think what you laid out is something that I can be comfortable with. None of us love all of it, right? We're never gonna, and we could spend the next 2 weeks, we could talk about this forever. Some point we gotta land the plane. So I feel like what you laid out to me, I'm comfortable with that. I am willing to go $500,000 fund balance, even up to $1 million. I don't know if my colleagues are there. I don't think a tax increase makes sense at this point. I appreciate Councilor Baker raising the issue of a small amount of raised taxes to pay bonuses to workers. I don't feel great about the 2% increase, but I will say that we increased taxes 2 years ago to bring all our staff up to market. It's a big increase. We also spent a lot of money last year in the budget to make sure we provided merits to keep folks at that market. While we're only doing 2% for all workers this year, what we are doing as a big part of the budget is we are prioritizing workers at the bottom. It's a big priority. It's a big part of this budget. I'm very comfortable with that. And some folks in the community have said, like, hey, it's not just about what the average worker is making. It's kind of this, they look at or even the minimum, but also what's the differential between the top workers and the bottom workers. And we are marginally narrowing that ratio between the top paid workers in the city and the bottom because we're raising the bottom a lot this year. And I'm very comfortable with that. So I think again, not perfect. I appreciate some of the conversation about the sort of the nonprofits and making sure we may return at least half of those to folks who are, again, sort of late breaking, have heard this news. So I think all those things together represent a package that I can be comfortable with. And again, we could spend a lot of time trying to sort of fine tune that, but at some point we got to land the plane. And I think what you've laid out is something I can live with. That's right.
Do we have the list of those items in the?
I do have it pulled up. So the largest item on the list is the class and compensation study. So that's about $400,000. The next largest is our community safety department had some kind of critical fleet needs, and that's about $400,000 that they needed, some vans and equipment, a fleet that they need for their business. We have money for a street design manual consultant was in that. The Immigrant Legal Defense Fund is a one-time fund since we traditionally put that in the budget as one time and then made a decision on it the next year. Directional finding for radio interference, which is some kind of equipment that our emergency or our 911 center needs. We also had some tablets for our fleet department that they have requested. There is a printer that.
What's it for the tablets? What's the cost?
$60,000. So, yeah, we're starting in at just smaller dollars. Money for an employee engagement survey is $50,000. There was like a computer for one of the new employees in the planning department. Yeah, a skid steer replacement. So that is a piece of equipment that for our Parks and Rec department is $175,000. We also had, we're developing a budget which was called, which is a one-time budget for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So that is something our general services department, it's to replace things that break down in the building that are kind of, the chairs you sit on, the things like that. So
again, that's I'm guessing a small dollar. It's like what,
it's
30?
$200,000. So it's not small, but yeah, it's something we have not had traditionally to be able to fund to be able to do that.
Is that separate from the fire FF&E?
That's separate from the fire FF&E. That's a recurring line in their budget.
How have we done furniture replacement in the past?
Departments have had to take it out of their budget and request it.
And so did we take out that amount from departments and then add it into this?
No, this is a one-time, because they're one-time costs that we would be doing, so.
Departments never had any money for it, essentially, so the reason this got added was the fact that departments who needed new furniture essentially had to sacrifice something else to get new furniture, and as an organization, we decided that that wasn't the best practice in terms of business practice, that if we have people who sit at furniture, we needed a budget to replace it previously, especially as the fleet of office furniture aged. So should council remove that budget, it would delay any furniture replacements, or departments would have to find it. The caveat I would say to that is, because departments have already offered and absorbed about $3.6 million worth of cuts, a lot of the money that they might have used in the past, we already have kind of offered up to balance the budget, which is not me telling you not to do it. I think the notion that this would be cut and they'd be able to find the money elsewhere is probably not true. It would probably delay replacements for a year.
Yeah, I mean, and delaying something for a year, while not ideal, is what we're talking about here, right? Because we're talking about one-time things. I'm wondering if you could send us that list so we could look at it, and while we're talking about it, it's just helpful for me to have a visual. I'm also cognizant that we could potentially cut money out of that pot, and that 200, even a portion of that, you said it was 200,000, even if we cut a portion of that, that's potentially bringing one of our community partners whole again. So it's an interesting thing to think about.
So, go ahead.
I just wanted to, well, as we think about what to cut, I want to keep our employee experience top of mind, because we do have flexibility to go out and about and do what we want to do. I haven't been in the office in like 5 years at this point. I couldn't imagine being in the office on an uncomfortable chair or not having access to tools and focus on my job. And so I just want to really uplift that as we are. I'm not saying, don't be exploratory, but think about the people who are the backbone of our corporation and our employees and their experience matters as well. So I want to ensure that we are not, again, to the quote the mayor stole from me, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I think when we get to things like that, that's when we are like really getting to dangerous territory.
Yeah, and to echo my colleague, Councilmember Burris, it'd be good to know, like, in terms of furniture replacement, it can sound mundane and maybe something you get pushed off, but I think about like ergonomics and employee health and safety in terms of the quality of the equipment that we all have in our workspaces can have, a physical impact on our health as well. And so I want to keep that in mind, and just in thinking about what those purchases might be, I'd be curious to know what, intersection it is with just making sure people have healthy, safe workstations, so.
So, I appreciate all these comments. It does get scary when we start thinking about, the folks that are making this place run. I don't think anyone's thinking about taking it away, but I think we're, trying to look into it all. I will say, when I got elected and moved into the mayor's office, the furniture was old and sticky, and it had been there since the early 2000s. And when I asked for new furniture, I think a couch, 2 seats, a table, and the chairs was running close to $300,000. And I said, absolutely not. Send it back, and let's look at a more budget-friendly option. And when I requested that, because the consultant was going to give us whatever their highest dollar was, and I asked the clerk, I said, I want to be involved in this conversation. And I think we went from hundreds of thousands to maybe $20,000. So I will say, and this is just furniture as an example, but I hope that, when we are requesting these things, we are looking at, being as cost efficient as possible. Because we are a city. I say this all the time, a slice of cake can cost you $3 until you put wedding in front of it. And then it's $1,000. So we are a government agency, and people take advantage of that. So as I know we have consultants and specific vendors that we're working with, and this is not just furniture, just anything that we may need. I hope that we're looking at trying to get, the best bang for our buck while also meeting the safety standards and requirements that we have to have as an agency, as a government agency.
We'd be happy to review furniture purchases with council. I'd invite you to walk around the building and look in people's offices, and hopefully it speaks for itself. I don't think you'll see anything obscene or obnoxious. I am not clear on the details of what you experienced, so I'm certainly not disagreeing with that, but I believe we have a pretty strong focus towards a mix between quality and durability, but affordability as well. But certainly be happy to reinforce or show council kind of what an average office costs. You know, those are all things I think are very reasonable questions for council to ask, and we can show you.
We'll go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think this is a helpful discussion. I will remind folks that when your office got done a couple years ago, the rest of us said like, well, so we passed on that. We passed on that.
Yeah.
And we're like, you know, and so I think, and I think the mayor's, I think you host more people. I think it's appropriate. The rest of us said like, we don't need like furniture. I think all these conversations.
With everyone, the whole council suite, it was over $20,000, I believe. Actually, it was, I'm sorry, it was over, it was hundreds of thousands
To
actually.
do all of us, yeah. We said
I think
that.
$200,000 to $300,000 for the whole office suite. It's like,
And so I think
how much
what-
that chair costs.
I think what the context here is like, it's not, we all want better vehicles for our staff, better computers, better furniture, but it's all sort of choices between that and something else. And so for me, if it's more, investing more in furniture for staff, you know, versus homeless framework, I'd say like, let's put more money in the homeless framework and we can delay that furniture purchase for a year. So I think that's kind of where we are. To me, the more we can put in the homeless framework, you know, whether it's like vehicles or furniture, I'd love to see more in that. So.
Speaking of the homeless framework, I'm on the side of, I think that our 2031 goal is quite ambitious, and I'm 100% supportive of it. I'm just going to pretty much run down just some of the things that I even shared with Mayor Pro Tem when we were talking and deliberating. And I will say also that I have conceded or willing to concede on some of my interests, but the approach that I came up with, and some I still have questions with, so it was Director Venus, I'll be calling you up in just a moment. There's some questions that are still out there for the homeless reduction strategy that I still have that I don't know if we can really answer until we put a little more work into it. And this isn't catching anyone by surprise, but I feel more comfortable moving that goalpost a little bit to maybe 2035 maybe. I am open to taking some of that funding out of the one-time funding and utilizing more sustainable funding year over year, which is also the county's approach. While I want the county to do more, need the county to do more. Their philosophy is we'd rather use sustainable funding rather than one-time funding. And this is a challenging year, so funding it at 4.3 or 4.2 or 5, whatever we said, maybe laying out the plan a little bit more, putting a little more confidence in the philanthropy side of it would make me feel a bit more comfortable. In regards to some of the items that are going to happen in the plan, which we received the other day, I remember saying it seemed like a duplication of services at face value with what we were doing with legal aid on eviction diversion, and then the case management and mediation in the homeless reduction strategy. And while we were focusing on homelessness and we're then also trying to keep people from getting homeless, I wanted to really assess or at least evaluate was it an actual duplication or how close those services were. And Director Venus, I wanted to ask you if you could give me clarification on that, because everyone's taking a haircut. I don't think at this point, I don't think anyone is safe to keep all their full funding. And so I wanted to play around with the idea of still being able to support the work that was being done by legal aid in both eviction diversion as well as the DEAR program, which the DEAR program was sliced to zero, which is a really effective program. And so I wanted to find a way to still support both of those initiatives, but potentially reallocating or streamlining some of that work. One is getting $750,000, one is getting zero. It's the same agency, and then we have some similar work or scope of work that's going to be carried out in the homeless reduction strategy, which is why I don't want to zero that out at all. We have to support that. So those, I'm not definitive on any type of numbers or reduction or reallocation, but I did want to know I asked you a question briefly the other day, didn't get a chance to really get your response when we were starting the meeting. You were telling me, when I asked you, could you give me a layout of what the county is doing and then what we're doing in regards to eviction diversion, how those two work together? And then Director Smith, if you could just help me out understanding, make sure I'm not misspeaking, because I haven't talked to you about this. I've just floated the idea of where the potential streamlining is between case management, mediation, and the eviction diversion as we know it as to be now.
Good morning. Sarah Venus, Director of Housing and Neighborhood Services. The eviction diversion program that Legal Aid leads has two components to it. So there's the legal assistance that they provide, and then there's also the rental assistance that's provided through DSS. So I think you all made that clear in earlier conversations in previous years that those pieces should work together, and they do. One of the things that we have learned more recently through conversations with Legal Aid is that there are some, I think, structural challenges to households accessing the rental assistance that is needed when they're facing eviction. So for example, the county's program requires that a household be at least 1 month behind before they can access assistance, and they have to have an eviction filing before they can access that assistance, and the maximum assistance provided is $2,000. So that precludes some households through accessing that assistance. So that is something that we're looking at closely, but I will say that Legal Aid has had a lot of success in achieving the goals outlined in the scope of our eviction diversion program. They've had about 42% success rate with preserving tenancy and avoided judgments 73% of the time. And they've served a total of 768 households and opened a total of 768 cases thus far this year, which surpasses the goal of 500. So I think we see this as an important part of the system, one of many strategies that we're pursuing in collaboration with our partners in the Community Safety Department. And I will say that while our programs straddle multiple departments, that we coordinate closely together. And one of the things that we are looking at next year as we launch the Flexible Housing Fund is how that funding, if used for rental assistance, could work closely with our existing eviction diversion programs so that we can continue to have the rental assistance coupled with the legal assistance so that those are working together.
Okay, that's helpful. Director Smith, well, actually, I think she may have just answered it. My main concern was just making sure that there was close collaboration between the two. That's good. And what I want to be sensitive of, if we are, entertaining the idea of shaving some of the one-time funding from the homeless reduction strategy, then I just want to be sensitive that we're not getting too deep to the core of that, disrupting the services that we're putting in place. Where is there room to make adjustments as we are working alongside the county as well? But I think that's a question for us probably. Go ahead.
Good morning, Director Venus. Good to see you. I had a couple of questions as well. So, am I not? It is. Have the mic's on.
Oh, hers doesn't light up.
Thank you. I missed what is the amount that the county does give for rent assistance? Do you know that?
I do not have that total available, but I can provide you with that information.
Yeah, it would be helpful if at some point we could find out what that number is and how it's increased over the years, because I think that would be helpful to see what the investment the city has made over the years, and is it comparable and actually working the way it was initially intended to work. And then what are the opportunities for us to have those conversations with the county? I mean, it's come up before that you have to already be in proceedings to get access to these rent assistance dollars, where it is more expensive to do it that way. We could probably help more residents and more families if the minute you're behind, you're just behind, and the attorneys are there as a kind of last recourse because you weren't able to come to terms with your landlord, essentially. Not because you're in arrears already, and that landlord is, you know, you're several thousand dollars in the hole as a resident, and the landlord needs some form of payment. So that's another question. And then when I'm thinking about the landlord engagement piece, we spend $150,000 currently through your department on landlord engagement, but then there's another, what, $450,000 in the homeless strategic frame. How much? I'm seeing a head nodding no. I was wondering how much is for the landlord engagement in the homeless strategic plan, because there's two components for that. Thank you. I know that's a question for a different department director.
Yeah, so on the coordination with the county, since that issue is on my radar now, we plan to be having conversations with the county to look at and legal aid, if they continue to be our partner, whoever we're partnering with on eviction diversion, to look at how we can get that system working more effectively. Legal aid has definitely highlighted it as an issue as well. So we plan to be having those conversations.
Thank you. And I know this is on our work session agenda later today, so I have a lot of questions with it then, but I don't want to get too much. But I would like to know with the landlord engagement, what were the dollars there? Because I can't remember off the top of my head.
Sure. The city has historically, within our department, it says $150,000 for landlord engagement, and the plan calls for increasing that by an additional $300,000.
Okay, so it's all within the community safety
All
department?
within the community safety department. It's not divided between two.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you said it's going from 150,000 to 300,000? Is that
To
correct?
400.
To 400,000.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't think I have a majority for the quarter penny property tax increase, but if we went that route and paid $500 bonuses, at least $500,000, and that we wouldn't have to take from the homelessness framework, we wouldn't have to take from neighborhood revitalization grants, we wouldn't have to try and claw this stuff back and hit different organizations against each other. Could cover some of Lion Park, cover some of the Immigrant Legal Defense Fund, could cover crossing guards. It is a route. I mean, we're trying to find the last little bit of remaining money here to cross the T's and dot the I's, a quarter penny. Bonuses leaves $500,000 for folks to work with.
I would say the reason why I'm so hardcore against raising taxes is because the county has raised taxes year after year after year. And I know we look at it through government speak. They're the county, we're the city. It's the same residents. And with looking at what's happened with the commercial properties, and that, surprise of a $7 million or $9 million, however much it was, we have benefited. We've benefited by not raising taxes because of the growth that we've experienced. Expanding the tax base has given us capacity, but we have also caught strays because the county keeps raising taxes every year. They just have a different scenario over there, and that's one thing that I heard from people that I didn't even know existed when this lay evaluation came out. So between the county raising it every year, we recently raised it, the valuation, land valuation or reval, and then this year, that's why I've been such a hard no on raising taxes even just a little bit. I think it's one of those things where we raised it even as just a quarter of a penny. I think that folks, when they see raised taxes, they're gonna freak out, you know, and I am not interested in carrying that banner. And one thing that I will say that, you know, when it comes to that, and this is me also personally, they're not gonna say the city council raised our taxes. They're gonna say, Mayor, you're responsible for the school buses not running. And it gets crazy, and I just can't answer for it, so. Bye.
Thank you, yes, this is, the worker pay is giving me, is like, for me, the worst piece of this budget. And it's no shade to anybody, because I know that y'all worked really hard to try and finagle as much as we could here. I'm having nightmares about this budget like every night, and it's mostly because of worker pay. At the same time, I work in an interesting housing insecurity space where I'm mostly dealing with renters, but I get calls a lot from homeowners too. And so I see the people who are impacted by potentially losing homes because they cannot pay their bills. And the population that's getting hit by that is like overwhelmingly like seniors and folks on fixed income. And I asked this question at the last work session. I see Director Fleur. Is still here? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you don't have to get up, but if you have something to add, I did hear from folks after I asked this question that our assistance for taxes is out. And
I think there's some follow-up information in the
okay,
packet as well.
yeah, okay, yes. And so correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't see it in there, but what I heard was that they are now going to have to start denying folks that assistance. And we are not, I mean, if we're hitting that this year, I mean, we're gonna have to start looking at putting more money into it next year. Not in this budget, sorry, don't add it to the spreadsheet. But we are gonna have to start looking at talking with the county seriously about putting more money into that. What I don't want is for folks who can't pay their taxes to not be able to maintain their homes, but I do understand that that's a very real threat to folks. And for me, the tax increase can't be on the table. And I want to say publicly that I think that the county tax increase is too high, given the very real impact that that's going to have on folks in this community. It's too high. I'm like very worried about people bearing the burden of that. I'm like extremely worried about it. We have the fastest growing homelessness population is seniors. What an incredible thing to do to like put them at greater risk. And also, we can't find money for raising our employee pay from this budget without a tax increase. And so that is where I get stuck, and I'm gonna fall on to not increasing the taxes on that side of things. I just feel like I've been pretty consistent about that through this whole process, and I'm sticking with it given my work and what I'm seeing in the community and the things that we're hearing from folks. And I want to say to like employees that does not mean that y'all are not valued. This is a really hard decision, but one that again I think I can't remember who said it, but we're here to make it was you, Councilmember Russ, that we are here to make these hard decisions, and like we take the fallout from those decisions, and so that's a hard one, and I feel pretty confident that that's where I stand on it. For me, the rest of this, again, I think that I'm not really interested in taking money out of the homelessness framework. I understand the want for it to be sustainable, and I also want to find money for it to be sustainable over time. But a lot of this is investment up front. We do have some like infrastructure type things that we will have to invest to make this work, and it's not going to be wasted money. Like if we put more money in up front, then we are able to sustain moving forward on the homelessness framework. It's not like we're going to lose it. We're going to make greater strides to our goals, and so that feels valuable to me. I don't want to set us back. Wow, I don't want to set us back. Getting homelessness down to zero is like my #1 goal for the city, and having housing security helps with a myriad of things. It allows people to be more food secure. It allows people to be to access healthcare that they need. It reduces violence in a great way. There's new statistics out about the direct connect between housing insecurity and homelessness and violence in communities. So for those reasons, I'm back on sort of the conversation about the fund balance. I know, we hate that. And I don't like it either. I really don't like it either. But that's where I'm falling. I can't see raising the taxes, and I really don't want to cut this homelessness program, and I really don't want to cause major discontinuity. A couple of these partnerships that we've looked at too, I think we're doing this summit on violence prevention next month. This month, oh my gosh, June. This month we're doing it. 2 weeks. And what I imagine that we're going to hear is like investment in community spaces, because that's a huge violence prevention tool that we see being used across the country, and we know statistically is something that's impactful. So taking money out of Weston Park, for example, or even the DEER program, or El Centro, I think, is doing great work around these spaces, like taking money out of those partnerships, causing discontinuity, like Councilmember Kopak said. It really feels like it's not just that we need to be funding them in perpetuity, but just that we didn't give them a lot of heads up to fix their budgets this year. And so for me, that feels worthwhile to dip into the one-time fund to ensure that these programs continue, that we don't see discontinuity, that we don't see interruption in service, and that we're not taking money out of something that we're going to need to invest in immediately to meet our goals. So that is where I'm sitting, and I appreciate everyone's contribution so far.
And just really quickly, I hope that we would consider treating the organizations that were slated to zero. I hope we'd be interested in treating those all the same, rather than just one. I just don't want to get in the habit of funding the organization with the most people who showed up. But just having a pretty consistent approach as a council here, and then someone else that had to look at me.
And I do appreciate my council colleagues' comments. I still not going to waver from I think that we can do more, and it's going to be, we're all adults here. We're not going to get what we want, so that's just a part of like life as an adult more so. I do have a question for Director Reardon. When we spoke about the money that's already been allocated for one-time use from the fund balance, I think when you were going down a list and listing things out, you mentioned the Immigrant Legal Defense Fund, and I want to know how much money has been allocated from that because I'm just trying to get a clarity on how much money in total has been allocated to Legal Immigrant Defense Fund.
It's currently in the budget.
Okay, so you took $250 out of the one-time use for the fund balance that we were using to fund that $250.
Yes, that is the way it is funded in this year's budget. Yes.
Okay, so my question is, if we're thinking about the community inputs for everything, what narrative are we sending if we're going to try to increase that by 500 for a total of 750,000, but then we're not fully funding the other community groups? I just want to think about the equity in that and the optics of how we're treating community groups. And I do agree to Councilwoman Cook's point that El Centro is doing good work. There are other groups doing good work. So I just want to think about like how we are our messaging around that if we're thinking about equity. And then also I will say, and I told some of my colleagues this, that I would love to move to the official granting program or process as to where people don't have the assumption that you're going to be granted the budget in perpetuity, to where you have to actually apply for the grants and you have those metrics. And so it'll be the granting process. So I do aspire to see that in the future, but we just get a little bit clarity around those questions.
I can speak to that, and I can speak to I agree with you, Councilmember Burris, around the re-granting. That's been raised several years, and I appreciate the manager for putting, we're having a hard conversation because these community groups were stripped out, and it's forcing us to really think about how are we doing it and what's the manner that we're going to do it moving forward. And to your point, I don't think it makes sense for folks to think that they're going to get funding for 30 years or 10 years or whatnot. I think we should be able to take turns amongst organizations in the community. I know that that's not for this year. Around immigrant legal defense, I have asked for it to be put reoccurring every single year. It's a council decision, but that has been a long time ask of mine. The reason that it gets funded this way is because it hasn't been honored. So I will ask for it again next year. Partly because and I think that that's an item, and if My request was for a certain percentage over certain years to get us where we through a hard time, and then to decrease the money again after a certain time, because the outfall of what's happening in the immigration space is not going to be done in 28, if we're lucky. There's going to be a kind of delayed effect that's going to take some time to get through. So that's the reason is because of where we are and what folks are experiencing. It's not to be in perpetuity and forever. It's basically crisis dollars to get us to a certain point in a few years.
And so thank you for that, because I really want to like just double down on just the equity piece, that we are all living in trouble sometimes in this world, and I understand that I'm not trying to pit communities against each other, but we are in a situation where like everyone's having a hardship in some way, shape, or form or not. So I want to, like, we're having these budgetary constraints. Is this the best time to fully fund that endeavor? Is what, because I don't want to, again, put communities against each other. I understand the need for it.
Yeah,
but
I mean, the ask was
constraints,
for $1
is this
million.
time.
So in my
I know.
mind, I've decreased it by 250,000. Last year, there was an augmented amount, a one-time 200,000, I believe. And it was it's the only item that was a council priority that didn't get any increased funding. Everything else that was a council priority, from eviction diversion to homeless strategic plan, has seen an increase.
Not the
So,
emergency.
huh?
Not the emergency funds. Yeah, not the emergency.
I think out of the top 5 is what I'm talking about. It's fare free buses, eviction diversion.
Emergency preparedness trip was second.
Okay.
But other.
And it's been a request of mine for several years now.
Okay, I hear you, I receive that, but I'm just thinking about, as we're making these tough decisions, like, just how can we make sure we're aligned with equity in our choices, and I get that, sometimes what we want is not always what we need.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I wonder if I could, on this issue of like what's in the, so we just had the 2.2.
Yeah, and that is actually, we just printed out a sheet for you so that you have it in front of you as well, too.
Yeah.
But yes, you can pull that up.
So while again, in the spirit of making hard choices, we've been, I think your proposal, Mayor Pro Tem, sort of lays out some tough choices to kind of like fine tune the manager's budget to get to, we'd like to see unanimous vote on this ideally, right? So I think we're wrestling those hard choices. I want to ask Director Smith, actually, if I could ask you a hard question. And you can choose not to answer if you want. But in this issue, so the Mayor Pro Tem has proposed taking $500,000 out of the ARPA interest, reducing that from the homeless strategic plan, right?
Yeah.
And so we've got on the list here, 394 for addressing fleet needs.
Right.
If you had to choose between the fleet needs and adding a little more to the homeless framework, what would you do as director?
Good question. I will choose to answer it, but let me think about it for a second.
And can your staff live for another year with the existing fleet, so we put almost 400,000 back into the homeless framework?
Can I offer an opinion which is not directly
Please.
on?
I was going to do a little Hamilton, like, if you had to choose,
Yeah.
choose,
If I had to choose, I would choose the fleet needs, and that is because that is driven by philosophy, and my philosophy is this. The council has already made a commitment and investment in the HART program. The vehicles we essentially grew the HART program while we were trying to figure out exactly what the fleet needed to be to support that program. This year has borne out that we do not have the appropriate vehicles, so we are using very inefficient and cost-inefficient means to provide those vehicles. We're using backup vehicles that are unreliable. We've got a rental, like a long-term rental from Enterprise that we're using to operate the fleet. So even if Director Smith would be willing to do that, my recommendation would be we always start by supporting the programs we have before we enhance new programs. So I am comfortable if Director Smith wants to offer a different opinion. That was not to direct you to say what that is, but
I'll just add one. I'll support the manager's position. The other thing that I'll add is, yes, it's hard, but it's also, as part of the reorganization, for example, Welcome Home, OEWD knew that they were going to have to do fleet vehicles for Welcome Home. That didn't happen in the reorganization. Fleet told us this year that those 3 vehicles, we had to put a new request in or else those vehicles were gone. So some of this is about heart, some of this is about Welcome Home and some of the reorg needs that were created. So, yeah.
I think
I appreciate the sort of like the clarity and the sort of like transparency, yeah.
Sure. I think one of the challenges throughout this conversation, and again, I welcome the questions and the decisions, so this is not pushing back on the decisions, but I think we've got a pretty good track record dating long before me and the past managers and past budget directors that we always try to get by with what we have first. And so last year when we did the reorganization, we didn't immediately resource everything to the fullest extent. We did a lot of, let's put this in place, let's see what we can get by with, and next year, if we need to clean anything up, that's what we'll do. So for better or for worse, things that you're looking at that are new this year as one-time expenses are really things that arguably departments said last year, we're probably going to need this, and we said, can you give it a year and see if you can get by without it? So that, again, that is not to say we can't get by for another year. Same logic on furniture, same logic on a number of things. If you ask us to do that, we will figure it out. But I want to be, my job is to make sure you know the implications and what community services, what community safety brought forward in the budget process this year is there is a great deal of inefficiency in their operations based on the lack of these vehicles. So that's why the recommendation came forward.
And I did want to just put some context also to the initial ask from the department was larger. So as part of the analysis that the budget department does, we did work with our fleet department to see if there were any vehicles that could be repurposed. So this is a reduced ask from the initial ask. And so this is kind of the bare bones of what we thought the department needed in order to get their work done. So.
Just really quick, before I go to Councilmember Kovac, do we purchase these vehicles outright?
Yes.
So have we not considered financing them? Is that not what governments do? Or at least, I mean,
You're
financing
getting
as in
into
like
questions about fleet, which is not my expertise, but
Okay.
the managers.
And the only reason I'm asking that is, buying a vehicle straight out is going to cost you, what, $40,000-$50,000, but leasing it keeps the fleet new and it's a monthly payment. Why don't
So
consider that?
without knowing the specific details, and I don't want to put Director Flora on the spot either, I would say we've got the same amount of sophistication in our fleet model that we do in our debt model. I know that the directors over fleet and finance and budget work closely together to monitor the purchasing life cycle of all those vehicles. A lot of data goes into it. I'm not sure if we use leasing, or I am certain we use leasing for short-term needs. Whether or not we use leasing for vehicles that we expect to own for their useful life, just as a means to kind of push off the cost, I'm not sure if that's in our model, but we can ask Joe Clark and budget to get more information on that.
And the only reason I ask is, we could spend $400,000 in purchasing vehicles this year, or we could lease for a year and then pay it off when we have a better financial situation, which would reduce significantly. But I don't know how that stuff works, so I'm just asking questions. Councilmember Kovac.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm just trying to think about this concept of landing the plane, which we don't have to do until June 15th, but I understand why direction now is helpful, and we'll continue to have discussions, I'm sure. But also thinking in this, idea of what we can live with, even if it's painful for us. It's kind of what I'm sitting with the tough choices before us. I mean, I would be willing personally to do $1 million additional from fund balance. But I also hear and respect and acknowledge the good arguments from my colleagues who don't feel comfortable with that. And so I think what I can live with is trying to work it, fit within a $500,000 being the max. I would like to see $1 million for immigrant legal defense this year. I think it's so critical and necessary. I know the Mayor Pro Tem has already made a difficult compromise to accept $750,000 in total in the spirit of trying to get to a solution, and that's something I can as well. I'd like to do more for our community partners, but I reflecting on the comments of my colleagues about, trying to think about, from a fairness lens of those partners, about trying to make sure that they all are supported in some way, even if we can't go all the way for those partners. I think that, the worker pay question is really painful and difficult, and I totally understand where people are coming from with what we've heard about how difficult that is, how that makes folks feel. I do believe we sincerely value our workers. When we make this choice, it can seem like we don't. And so I think that, we're gonna have work to do if that's where we end up. But I don't see how we get there without a tax increase. And I don't think I can make the case any better than Councilmember Cook did about why that is an important thing to wrestle with about not going there. Because of the impact it has on our seniors, folks on fixed incomes, folks who have really gotten hit recently by tax increases. And though I know we like to sometimes focus on, the county, I do want to see the math, right? But I, do believe the city has made choices in recent years that have led to pretty significant increases in residents' taxes. I think those were for good reasons. They were for worker pay. They were for growing our HARP program. They were for, a variety of other choices. They were the bond that our residents voted on to invest more in streets and sidewalks has been a big part of that too. And those are all things that I believe in. And ultimately we and the county have to make difficult choices about, these questions. And I don't want to, I want to give grace to our fellow commissioners about the tough choices they have too, especially when they have the school system, that is under their purview, which is under so many threats in the tax right now. So, I'm gonna focus on what we can do, and I know we both have tough choices. I do want to, on the heel of this comment, give thanks to Commissioner Jacobs, who has sent me some figures, which we were asking about, regarding eviction diversion, because that is such an important pairing, and I know we're going to talk more about it this afternoon, but the money DSS provides through the county for the rental support. Last year, the county initially budgeted $200,000 for rental support through DSS. Then after mid-year, and I guess this talks about the importance of fund balance, I think it was through lapsed salaries, they found additional funds to bring that total up to $660,000 for rental support, which was ultimately spent completely because the need is so great right now. And this year, what's in the budget at this point in time is a starting point of $250,000 for rental support. After they ended up, spending $660,000 last year, and so that shows the need and also the pressure the county's facing. But that, is hopefully information too about some of the choices we're making, which may be more relevant ultimately to the conversation this afternoon. About eviction diversion dollars, but I just wanted to provide that context as well.
Mr. Baker.
I'm going to annoy the hell out of everybody right now. I'm going to make one final pitch here. It's not that I want to raise property taxes on people. It's not that I want to raise taxes and make ordinary people pay more. But I also I want to come back to kind of like the philosophy of property tax, because costs go up, property values kind of tend to go up, although right now they've kind of gone down a little bit. We're in a strange period here, but costs go up and property taxes tend to go up in between property revaluations. And what we've often done is kind of zero property tax increase, 2 pennies. Zero property tax increase, 1 penny, 1.5. And as we think about what could potentially come down the line from the state legislature, does it make sense to be more slow and incremental in how we levy increases in property tax? Do we want to, instead of doing 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 2, 1/4 of a penny, 1/4 of a penny, 1/4 of a penny, and move slowly? So that's one thing. Could we do that and then add in $100,000 for property tax relief, and then have $400,000 left over for folks to lobby for different groups that are seeing funding cut? So that's one thing. The second thing is I am perfectly unhappy with the manager's proposed budget. And I would vote for it, and I hate it, so I would vote for it. So that's one thing. And then the third thing is we now have millions of dollars that used to come to the general fund that's now going to Durham Next. And so I would pose a question to the city manager: is it possible for this year to request or even to direct, you're on board of Durham Next, to direct some of that money to something that Durham Next wouldn't typically spend money on, but direct something to community organizations? Is that feasible?
I do not think that's feasible based on the legislation. The funds that go to Durham Next have to be spent for the purposes that they were allocated. I think even, correct me if I'm wrong, even before the change in legislation, those dollars still had some requirements about how we spent them, or were they general fund? Okay, that was
Just
incorrect.
general,
So
yeah.
don't rely on that. That's why we have smarter people than me in the room. But my understanding is they've had that. I will say Durham Next board members in board meetings have regularly understood that those dollars need to be reinvested in ways that support the city's motives and obligations. And so while I think I have heard board members express an understanding that they are stewards of dollars that are Durham tax dollars for tax purposes, but I don't believe they are able to make just a cash payment back to the city for our general use purposes.
Okay, thank you for that. So my first 2 points stand. Quarter penny, is that an appropriate and conservative philosophy to be incremental in the way that we approach property tax increases over the next several years, especially given the unknowns around potential property tax caps coming down from the legislature, combined with putting in $100,000 additional for property tax relief, and also the current proposed budget I dislike, and I would vote for it. Thanks.
Just to follow up, and like, I do appreciate my place for uplifting that we are statutorily required to adopt a budget. So it's like, no matter like or dislike, we have to do our jobs as elected officials. So I do appreciate that. I've said this before, think about how our policies impact our people, contribute to some of the issues that we're trying to improve upon. So while I do hear you, and I appreciate your persistence in the pitch around the half-cent tax, and then also an investment in isn't that kind of like you're crossing each other out? You're putting people in vulnerable situations and only allocating $100,000 to try to remediate the problem. Does that not create bigger issues for that? So I just want to keep in mind like how some of our proposals can actually work against us in the long term as we're trying to address these issues. But I do appreciate the manager and staff, the budgetary stuff, and I'm really ready for June 15th at this point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I had a question for Director Smith. The $500,000 that's currently in the county's budget for the homeless strategic framework, do we have an idea of how we're going to use that money?
Not yet.
Okay, when are we having conversations with the county about that?
I was supposed to be meeting with them today. but
Oh,
I'm not
sorry
sure.
about that.
Yes.
That's another, because it's not clear what that's going to potentially be used for, that's one of the questions that I had. Okay, so here's where I'm at. It seems like there is some desire, Councilmember Baker, I'm not hearing anyone, just to be perfectly candid, that wants to increase taxes. I think that's for the very clear reasons that Councilmember Cook posed. We know it's really hitting our seniors hard, and we don't have good tax circuit breaker programs in the state. Like they're hard. So I think that's where most council is no on taxes. It seems like there's some question on fund balance, no fund balance. I know some folks have at least said maybe up to $500,000. It seems like there's at least some consensus around that. I'm going to say with the strategic framework and the ARPA interest dollars, to the manager's point around Fleet for Heart, That's a new program. We have programs that we have funded for years that have had deep impact, from DEER to basic income, that I really think it took a lot to get those programs going. They have the infrastructure necessary to keep going, and I don't want to, I agree with the mayor. The Home Strategic Framework is very bold. It's a big plan, it's a big idea, I believe in it, and I also think because it's new, we can have some grace on how we roll that out, especially if it means we're gonna defund things that we've already put dollars in and residents have already gotten used to using. And so I'm comfortable using some of those ARPA unrestricted dollars, scaling back the Home Strategic Plan a little bit, deeply knowing that that work is critical, because it is also going to fund things that help folks who face homelessness, like folks who can't get jobs because they can't get their licenses restored. They're at risk. Folks who go to folks who are on our basic income program, they're also in really dire circumstances to find housing. So it is an ecosystem. When I think about where we are and what we have, it is more important to me to make those things whole as best as possible and to scale back a plan that is ambitious and needed, but we can take our time a little bit. We don't have to fully fund it year one, and those dollars are unrestricted. And so to me, making that blend, everyone gets a hit. I appreciate what Councilmember Burr said around, we're gonna have to make some hard decisions, and we know that. That framing is a blend of everyone's desires. Are you going to get 100% in that negotiation? No. But you're going to have some limits. So those folks who don't want to touch on fund balance, it's just a little bit. Those folks who don't want to touch Home Strategic Plan, we're scaling it back some, but it's not believing in that plan. And so that is why I think that is the framework that we should move forward with, because it's the place where I guess we can get the most consensus, and it's 11/11, and I want us to think about time.
Yeah, colleagues, let me say this. I'm a hard no on the fund balance, but I will be open to conceding on that. Up to 500 if we can do the same for the strategy. Pretty much what you just stated. I think that's the most reasonable thing we can do. We all have to give a little bit, and that gives us at least $1 million right there alone. And if we think about the neighborhood stabilization grants, spoke to a director about it. Of course, making sure that we're not cutting someone out that's already an applicant in it, but it is money that's standing, and we are planning to have a pretty robust economic development strategy rolled out next year as well, that will have probably even more in this. So if it's not being utilized right now, then that's 1.3. I think we're getting there. And how much do we need?
We need 1.8, but if we're getting it to 1.5, I think, is that about right with what we've said? I mean, that's $300,000. I think we can look at staff and say, hey, it's $300,000, help us out here. I don't think we're giving you like a tremendous amount of homework if we can't find that last $300,000. That's where I'm at anyway.
I mean, we're shaping. I'd like to see where else we can shave off a few $100,000. And we'll get to that mark.
Director
So
Reardon, do you
we
feel
can come back
like you?
with a proposal, or if we
Okay.
get to that closely, I think, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And one more thing, in regards to, and I know when we looked into the rationale of why the Lion Park was being slated down, I mean, I'd like to also entertain changing the relationship with them. We don't have a lot of venue space in this city. So rather than having leases places, maybe we could really look at just the community center model that we have with others, like IATI, and I forgot who the others are, but that's more of an operational or administrative thing. But I think we're at least at 1.5 right now, 1.3 to 1.5. Director Reardon said she's going to work some magic and do some abracadabra stuff.
We've come up with a proposal, yeah.
Councilmember Cook.
The 1 point, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on what we're doing. The 1.8 is taking every single community partner and giving back half? Okay, yeah, I mean, I understand the want to treat all of them.
So, yeah, I think that is 1.8. It looks like, we're going to be doing the math right now here for you, but that looks like the full 927,000. We can do half, if that's what you all are saying, and get you a number for that.
Well,
Not the full, so yeah, that's what we, so just, if you all come to some consensus, we can do the math for you.
Okay.
But that would, the 1.8 would be the full.
I hear the interest in keeping them all together, but they are all not the same. I mean, I think that we do need to be really like honest about that. So I think, for example, like I know that the manager talked to the folks at Sister Cities. That cut was that what they said that they could. That was sort of like the essential of like kind of a non-service cut, like what you asked from your departments. That number.
Departmental discussions informed that number. We did not talk with Sister Cities, so that was a review of their budget and an acknowledgement that the city functionally partners with them for events. That's the only reason that we did not do a full cut there, but that rationale was not deeply, deeply discussed. It was an understanding that we are frequently co-sponsoring and participating in the Sister Cities program, so I didn't feel, I thought it might essentially kill that program to unfund it, and that's a program that the council has previously participated in and been part of. That, to be clear though, there was not a deep level of analysis on that. We looked at their fund balance, we looked at the inconsistency with which they draw it down, and I proposed that they receive some sort of cut.
Okay, yeah, I mean, see that, it was not very much. I think it was like $3,500 or something, like it wasn't much. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't want to look at, they're not all the same, right? Like these things are not all the same, and they're not all sort of doing the same work, and they are meeting goals that might be relevant to our strategic plan now, or our strategic goals now, but might have, or might not be. So, I mean, I get it, but I'm
What are you
saying.
suggesting?
I didn't know if are we looking at them, funding them back all as a whole?
It's fully funded everybody. That's what they've got in the plan for the whole.
We've gotten to that
That's why
point.
the difference is that $500,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're missing some 100,000. Okay, so never mind. I thought that it was the half was getting, I just, whatever. I wanted to make sure that we were, if we could get to the whole on some of those, I thought that some might be more important than others to reach the whole. That was all I was going to say, but it doesn't matter. We don't even have to do it. It seems like that's going to work with the numbers that we're given. And I know that we're throwing the $500,000 around from the fund balance. I was wondering if you did have a statistic on like what 1 percentage point is, because if we're looking at, instead we need to draw 750 and it's going to make it all balanced, I would be willing to go up to 750 or whatever. I don't know, but it would be helpful if we had some context. Do we have some context?
We're working on it, yes. So we'll try and get that. So what would 750, it's helpful to know what the number is. So if we got down to,
I mean, Councilmember
750 or $1 million.
Kopak said that he'd be willing to go up to $1 million. I might be willing to go up to $1 million if that's like half a percentage point. But if it's like 2 percentage points, then maybe not, right? So that's where I'm kind of falling, but
Yeah, you have flexibility up to the 16.7.
yes, and I feel like I'm just throwing you random numbers without understanding how they impact a percentage surplus. So I would also be comfortable up to $1 million, but it sounds like we don't even need to go that far necessarily. So.
I just have a question for my colleagues. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. And I think Councilmember Cook kind of alluded to this, like that not all community agencies are built the same, and thinking about like when you have a nonprofit, their fiscal years, I get that. But when you have other government entities who have other bodies that offer them funding, do we still want to keep that as full capacity? And I'm thinking about the AOC work, like they can lobby the AOC, they can lobby the county. So like I just want to know if that would also help bring some of our numbers down if we didn't fully fund a request.
So I think when we get down to this point, we're sort of like, individual line items gets really hard, like, because everybody has different perspectives there. We could be here forever. I want to ask Ms. Reardon, so we've put back in the community agencies, they're fully funded there. We've got a difference of $500,000 now, there now. if you're saying you're okay with that, the staff can sort of figure out that last bit, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise we could we could spend a lot of time negotiating individual line items. It's gonna be really hard. So like if staff can say they can do it from here, I'm happy to say we're close to an agreement. Staff gets us the final step of the way.
So I don't want to complicate things, but my concern is that you're talking about at least one of the options we normally look at the very end is minute changes to fund balance. But since fund balance is already a point of discussion amongst the council, I wouldn't be comfortable with staff crossing the finish line since council's discussing fund balance. I'd like for if council gives us, I feel like if fund balance is primarily how we would get over the finish line, Director Roden, then I'd rather council make that decision here until that number is 0 at the bottom of the column. If you believe we've got a few other levers to pull that I'm not aware
And I think the
of.
number that we had talked, when I was comfortable, was quite a bit smaller. That's almost 600,000, so I think that would be much harder to find.
So it seems like at this point then so if we went back to restoring half the funding to the community agencies, that would get us within 100,000 of our goal, right?
I think if you either raise if I could be bold and say, I think your two best options are probably if you raise the fund balance to $1 million if you wanted to fund all the community agencies, or if you were to take the agencies down to half, that would kind of get us close enough to,
So, yeah, but as one council member, because this is what I think was what we've been talking about over the last couple of days. I'm happy taking those agencies back to half their funding. Then we're sort of close without going into fund balance. It is one or the other. So that's I think what you're saying. It's either more fund balance or scale us back.
Those are the best options.
Yeah.
Can you repeat your question, Councilmember Burris? Go ahead.
Yeah, we did go half, we could raise some, but then it presents a question of ethics and just the criteria you're gonna use for that. But I will lean in and I will move a little further. I would go up to 500,000 in fund balance, but not $1 million in that. But I think just being intentional about my question I asked was if there's some community partners where we don't normally partner with them, is normally funded by other entities, because that's $300,000 right there. So did you want to give them 150 or take the whole 300K and then put it back in, because they're not a typical nonprofit where they have to apply for grants. They have other entities to go ask to solicit money from.
Well, how would folks feel, and maybe I'm gonna make everybody angry, if we took up fund balance to 650 and we took the ARPA interest to 650, what would that do?
I can hold my nose and
I mean, I'm just trying to get us there, y'all.
That would be more money than you needed if you're trying to say if you're trying to get to the.
Yep, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
So I'm kind of just digesting kind of what Councilmember Burris is sharing here and seeing if there is a principled way we can draw some distinctions. And I'm just curious to see if we had everybody at a half, and if we then were to bump up our nonprofit partners versus our government partners, where would that put us? And then what would we need from fund balance or ARPA interest to get that?
Yeah, because I wouldn't consider, DEER would be a nonprofit.
DEER's also nonprofit, so it would
Yeah.
just be the AOC
So
contract.
what would it do? So it was 315,000, so what if we have that? Okay, so we do that and then everybody else gets full funding?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing from council colleagues is it
Top on that.
315,000?
313.
313, take that to half and keep everybody else full.
I think it's worth having someone advocate and share what we're losing by doing that, but I do think it would allow a principled way of drawing a distinction.
It's 2 ADAs, that's what it is. That was in our, okay, all right. So what does that do?
Well, she just hinted at it. It's the difference in 119. Can you and the manager then sort of fund the last 119? Would that task be?
I mean, it will have to be cuts, but yes, we'll have to find it.
It's 119,000, is that right?
Okay. Mayor, I think we have hands up.
And I want to go back to this one singular thing because I know, I hear you on the line items and I know that it's problematic, but we got this list from y'all for the one-time spending, and out of all of those things, they're all designated for specific things except for the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which is just a $200,000 budget. Can we bring that down to $100,000 and just have it? I understand, and then like prioritize based on employee needs, and delay the rest of those fixtures, right? Or like, can we just manipulate that fund? Because that's an amount, it's not set for any specific furniture, right?
And I guess I would like to talk with the manager about that and kind of assess what the best place to take that cut would be. But yes, we could definitely have those kind of conversations.
I think the answer is essentially, if you guys direct us, we'll go to this list, and if we all put our heads together and decide that's the right place, that's where it'll come from. If we find a better option on that list, or think, sharpen our pencils one more time and find some other way to do it, then we'll do it that way. And we'll be happy to report back to council what that recommended final cut would be.
And so with this number, are we still at 650 from both funds, or are we back to 500?
You're at 650 for both. And that would restore fund, and it's full funding. So just to go over what we heard, so that just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. We heard that you would reduce the ADA allotment to half. Is that what I think I heard? And then keep all the others, community agencies, at full funding. There is money for the crossing guard pilot, which is $75,000. There is the parking pilot, which is the 1 hour free parking. The increasing the immigrant legal defense fund, $500,000, and the guaranteed basic income. That would finish the year. They have some funding that can get them through. We've confirmed with the department that it's around $300,000 that they would need. And then what we would be taking from would be neighborhood revitalization grants at $300,000, the strategic framework at $650,000, and then fund balance would be $650,000 as well. And then
You get the rest.
and then we will figure out the rest.
Mayor, can I?
Colleagues, this is, I think this is the closest we've gotten. I'm holding my breath on it, but I'm gonna ask that we convene around what we have right here.
Also, I want to say, I just want to give tremendous respect to the manager and staff here, because when we get to the budget at this point, this has been so thoroughly scrubbed. It's not like there's we're something you totally missed. Everything has been well thought through. When we talked about some of the items in the 2.2, there's reasons why everything is there. And a lot of it is because we didn't do it the previous year. So I just want to give you all a tremendous amount of respect because you've done the hard work here. Our job is to sort of is to hear what the community is saying and fine tune it, but you've done the hard work. And I think this is an agreement. I think this is the best we're gonna get. So let's do it.
I want to return the appreciation and praise. We understand this is an incredibly painful budget, and my proposed budget forces you to consider some really distasteful options. They were distasteful to us, and I know they're distasteful to you. But I believe we've got a good path forward, and I'm extremely grateful for the time this morning. I do want to flag a few potential takeaways aside from the budget. I heard some discussion, but I'm not sure if I heard consensus or at least majority that council would like for us to bring back a discussion about outside agency funding and offer you options for how that might look in the future. If that is your direction, given, I think, very fair and reasonable comments that were made this morning about what we notice and signal to our outside agency partners, should this budget get adopted and restore funding to most of those outside agencies, would you be comfortable with us sending them some advance notice that this process will be looked at prior to next year, and that they should consider that as notice that this funding is not a commitment for permanent funding? I'm not trying to talk you into that, but if that's where you're at, I would feel like now's a good time to go ahead and get that on their radar screen so that we don't upset anybody like we did this year. Are there other process things, Director Rudin, or any of the executive team, that we feel like we need to talk about for closeout of budget? So
you will receive as part of the final packet, you don't have anything in your packet today for work session because we knew we were doing the work today. But as part of the final budget adoption, you will receive kind of a memo that will outline all of the changes that you all have agreed to so that it is very clear what what we have done since the manager's budget. So I know there's been some questions, but we will outline for you what is in that proposed budget so that you know what you're voting on.
All right, I too want to thank staff, but you guys, it takes a lot trying to, make this work with all of the changing perspectives coming from the 7 of us. So thank you for your work in this continually, and I look forward to us getting to the 15th. I want to really thank my colleagues. I want to thank you all, because this was not easy. It was really uncomfortable, tough conversations. And I just really appreciate the commitment and the collegiality around getting to this point. So I look forward to getting to the 15th with you, and not everybody's gonna be happy, but I think we'll be able to move forward. All right, it is 11:30, and I look forward to seeing you all at 1 o'clock. We are adjourned.